Virtual may be participant, but is still attentive and eager to listen and follow you, Prof. Charles Bonnet. Professor Bonnet, you have the reputation of possibly being the most coherent archaeologist in the modern era. Today, archaeologists say Sudan's ancient kingdoms once rivaled Egypt and Rome itself. However, some, we know, have hindered the Sudan ancient legacy, worked diligently to put the Sudanese in the position of a kind of, what I say, kind of Jeremiah. Yet, until you, Professor Charles Bonnet, began your work, no one knew the scope and influence of the Nubian state, of the actuality of the Black pharaohs who presided magnificently over their land. The political, military, and commercial achievements revealed in some Nubian sites challenged and still challenging global long-held belief that the Egyptians were far more advanced than their southern neighbors, and that Black kingdoms were effectively vassal or sort of a vassal states. As a matter of fact, your discoveries have changed the landscape of archaeology once and for all. Well, Professor, you have achieved via your diligent work a well-deserved world fame. You and your team have unearthed 3 temples that could help unlock some of the secrets of ancient Africa. The sites are unlike anything discovered so far. You know it, and everybody knows that. The round and oval-shaped structures dating from 1,500 BC to 2000 BC were found not far from the famed archaeological Kerma, a place I know that, and the Sudanese know that you have dedicated your professional life to, a place that you hold dearly. Well, the round and oval-shaped structure and architecture are unknown. There is no example neither in Central Africa nor in the Nile Valley itself of this architecture, right? You have found evidence of the revival of powerful Black Nubian society 7 centuries after Egypt conquered Kush, around, I believe, 1,500 BC, and you might correct me. When you unearthed 7 life-size granite statues of Black pharaohs circa 744 BC to 656 BC. Again, your discoveries have shaken the world understanding of the origins and sophistications of early civilization in the heart of Black Africa. The 7 statues with exquisite workmanship transform the world understanding of the art of that era. In particular, the closest statue of Taharka, almost certainly done by an Egyptian sculptor, and it is by definitive masterpiece stone artwork. Well, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, to borrow slightly from Yeats, Professor Charles Bonnet is an unaging monument of intellect. I repeat, Professor Charles Bonnet is an unaging monument of intellect. He is famously a person with very strong convictions and a very persuasive, forceful form of argument. He is celebrated worldwide for rewriting the early history of the African continent. And this is not an overstatement. It is a great pleasure and a great sense of honor that I call Monsieur Bonnet, the star of the evening, to address this virtual gathering. Virtual, I said, but still attentive and eager to listen and follow. It is a very, very great honor to be able to welcome Professor Charles Bonnet, the Sudanese community in Qatar, and all over the world. Professor Bonnet, ou bien notre cher Charles, you have discovered a Nubian complex that is contemporary with the 18th Egyptian pharaoh dynasty. It was the time of Akhenaten, Tutankhamun. Could you please talk us through that? Over to you, Monsieur Charles Bonnet.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I am so happy to have this contact with the community. And thanks to El Fati, to you, Mohammed, and to all my friends in London, in Saudi Arabia, and in Qatar, and naturally in Sudan. Tu peux mettre... Well, we see for my PowerPoint, for the picture.
The administration has deactivated the connection to our...
يا محمد يا أخي خلي الناس تقفل المايكس، في مايكس فاتحة كثيرة.
C'est encore la même chose. L'administrateur a désactivé le partage d'écran par les participants.
Well, it is deactivated, actually, the screen. There is a problem with the screen.
C'est la personne qui a fait l'invitation doit la activer.
Good evening to everyone and good evening to the prof. We cannot see anything. We are getting blank monitor. We cannot see anything. Please try to rectify so that we can follow. Thanks.
Il ne voit rien, nous non plus. We don't connect our... Ah, c'est Salah.
Salah.
Salut Charles.
Comment ça va?
Très bien. Ça va?
Ça va.
Salut Salah. Marion.
Oh, salut Mario, ça va?
Oui, oui, ça va. On a
un
problème parce que l'écran est désactivé.
Partage.
Oui, je suis ça. Bonne chance. Hein?
Comment ça va?
Très bien, je suis à Jeddah. Bonne chance.
Merci. Il faudrait activer l'écran.
On attend.
Ouais.
On a le temps. C'est Ramadan, on a le temps. On n'a rien à faire. On n'a rien à faire pendant la nuit.
Okay.
J'ai un PowerPoint.
Ah, c'est bien. C'est bien.
C'est qui l'animateur?
Organizer, can you give permission to record? Can you release the permission so we can record the...
Ben moi, ça marche parfaitement. C'est qui l'animateur?
C'est ça, la Mohamed. Amin.
Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Maintenant, tu peux commencer.
You can see,
Voilà, oui, oui.
it's okay?
Oui, oui.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yes, you can go ahead. Now we can see. Yeah,
It's okay.
you can go ahead, Prof.
Allez, vas-y.
Well,
Yeah, it's okay. It's clear now. You can start.
I didn't have been last year in Kerma for the problem of coronavirus in my country and in your country. And I hope to be in Sudan next November. During so many years, because I am working in Sudan for 55 years, each season 3 months, and I try to understand the beginning of your history. And in fact, we are sure that your country is at the beginning of the history in all Africa, because when the men are organizing a first complex state like the kingdom, the Black Kingdom of Kerma, it is the beginning of the history. And we have so many data to prove that, and it is what we try to understand more and more. You remember that the kingdom of Kerma is on both sides of the third cataract. It is around 1,500 kilometers along the Nile. It is a big, big, big kingdom with an enormous territory. And when we began to work in Kerma, it was a little difficult because 100 years ago, George Reisner was thinking that this settlement was connected with Egypt and mainly Egyptian. He was thinking that the Defoufa in the middle was the palace of Egyptian governors. Today we know that this Defoufa is the main temple in the center of the city. And we worked 30 years to understand all the remains in this country. And we are sure that this settlement is connected with the capital of Nubia. And step by step, we understood that the town was organized for the commercial purpose between south and north, near the border of the north and the south. And cleaning all the surface of Kerma, it was possible to understand how the city was organized with institutions, and finally we reach to understand the evolution of the architecture. As you can see here, the architecture is connected with the main road north-south in the middle of the city. And we are sure today that this city is influenced by Egypt. Naturally, with so many commercial contacts, it was possible to follow partly the Egyptian architecture. As you can see, all the buildings are square in shape, apart two main constructions, but the influence is clear. And in fact, we found so many seals and print of seals showing the importance of the exchange between south and the north. No. During the last years, with the help of Salah ad-Din Mohammed Ahmed, we decide to go to Dukigel. As you can see with this picture, there is a very narrow connection between Kerma and Dukigel. And in fact, today we know that two main metropolis, two main towns was at only 700 meters one from the other. And this Dukigel is now studied from 20 years ago, and the discoveries are very impressive. As you can see here with this picture, the site of Dukigel is enormous. And you can see in the background the Defufa and the site of Kerma. Naturally, there is an enormous work to do, because if Kerma town with the Defufa is connected with Egypt and with the Egyptian architecture, Dukigel is completely different, as you can see. And a first city is built with round and oval building, and we have only the surface of this site. In fact, going down step by step, we understood very quickly that till 2 or 3 or 5 meters down, we have remains perfectly preserved. And we ask our Polish friends to do geomorphologic study, and we saw that under the soil, all the buildings are round in shape or oval. And this is naturally completely different than the case in Kerma. That means that just at 700 meters from Kerma, we have another town with completely different routes. For example, we did what we call the stratigraphy. That means a trench going down, and we are actually at a little more than 2 meters deep. And we found each 20 or 30 centimeters new structures. That means that the town have been rebuilt so many times. And it is so impressive to see each 20 or 30 centimeter new building. In this case, we are in the middle of the fortification work around the city. And you can see here the remain of different bastions, military bastions, and period of abandoned with huts in post holes and round in shape. Number 8 is rebuilt, and you can see how enormous this bastion, military bastion of Kerma, of Dukigel, with 20 meter by 20 meter. And this bastion is unique. There is no fortification work so big like this one, all along the Nile Valley in Egypt also. That means that we are in a completely different world, and it is what I try to understand today with my colleague. This is the plan of the indigenous town, I will say 3,000, 4,000 years ago. That means a town completely astonishing if you compare it with all what we know of Africa. In red, at 2 meters deep, you can see my bastion, enormous. It shows the dimension of the construction. And you can see the center protected with a wall of 6 meters thick with many entrances. Excuse me. These entrances are organized in 2 towers by huge gate. And in the middle, we found a well, very well preserved, and there is another one to the north. Around this well was preserved a workshop of bronze killing. And these bronze work have been done so many centuries ago. Excuse me, there is a problem? Well, and all around, no. All around the central part, we found remains of entrance, monumental entrance with huge hypostyle hole and this oval shape construction connected with the entrance. And we have also palaces and naturally temples. This view shows you the situation with the round building, the oval building connected with
لانه اشتغل مع التليفون انا قمت ما اعرف انا عملت شنو.
Well, we can see
يا اخوان الناس تقفل المايكس يا جماعه المايكس
Excuse me اقفلوا المايكات بليز everyone close the mic please.
الهوست ممكن يعمل ميوت لاي زول ثاني.
Voilà. In the upper part, you can see square building. It is temple of the Egyptian colonization. And under, we have all the remains of this oldest city. This show you how technically we are cleaning big surfaces, and we found like that round temples all around the site. This is one of these temple cleaning, and with the drawing of each brick found. And you can see that this temple is round in shape with column inside the main room in the middle. And naturally, it is important because there is no round temple in Egypt, no round temple around the Nile Valley, and we are sure that this extraordinary architecture is unique and still unknown today. Probably in central Sudan, there is many other examples, but it is still unknown. This temple inside is connected with an altar, with a round base, and with a basin for water ceremonies. All around, afterwards, they built towers, as you can see the remains here, and for the military purpose, these towers are used to defend this temple. This is a reconstruction of the temple and this tower all around. You can see this is a completely unknown architecture, and we try to understand step by step and to explain the importance of the patrimony of Sudan. This is the evolution of this temple, as you can see, going from 2000 before Christ till the end of the Meroitic period. The shape of the temple stay round, but there is so many different periods that it is very complex to study. This is another construction, oval in shape, with thousands of columns in mud brick. There is two entrances with doors connected with towers of protection. Inside, you have all this column like a sacred forest, and you have the passage leading to two main seat to the north. That means the throne of kings or maybe chief of war. And this throne are connected with the south countries. We are sure today that the king of Kerma asks the people of central Sudan, probably Kassala, probably Darfur, ask them to come to help, to block the army coming from Egypt. And in this case, they are in ceremonial palaces to prepare the war against the Egyptian. This construction is extraordinary, as you can see, and very well preserved, with a huge wall of 4 meters, with buttresses all around, and with this column, foundation founded till 1 meter, till 2 meters, because the column was going up till 12 meters high. And we have the remains of the seat, the royal seat in the middle, with the paved road leading to this seat. Well, this is a reconstruction to see you where we are working to archaeologically to understand better this building. Naturally, with a strong wind coming from the north, the roof must be attached strongly to the earth. We have at the beginning of the New Kingdom a new town, but I think that the passage between this period, this or indigenous period till the Egyptian colonization is complicated. And for this reason, the people of Kerma adopted another architecture. As you can see here, there is 2 different constructions, square in shape. And we found headquarters of the troops coming from the south, probably from Kassala or Darfur, Mal Darb el Arbain. And strangely, in the south of this building, we found enormous seat, enormous throne for the kings and for the chief of war, protected by guards. And in front of them, we have altar for religious purpose. This building is extraordinary and is probably dated to 1500 before Christ, just before the arrival of the Egyptian. And on both sides of this main throne, this main seat, royal seat, we have little rooms with many seats and main throne also. That means that during a period, there is a long discussion between the different people coming from the south to stop the army of Egypt. And a long discussion strategy, army strategy began. But finally, the Egyptian dream to control all the region. And they reach to completely colonize Kerma and the south of Kerma and all the north. They did what we call in Egypt a menenu. That means a little town in this new territory. And this town is built by the Egyptian with, as you can see here, with square building. And in the middle of this town, this menenu, we can see new temple, square in shape, and you can see also to the left a huge monument, the Palace of the King, probably of Thutmose I, who is known after the big inscription in Tumbus, and also with different ceremonial palaces, with silo to the right. These silo are used for the army in Kerma. And naturally, this enormous door, 4 doors in front of the fortification work. That means that they have special fortification done for Nubia, because such a door are Egyptian surely, but they are not known in Egypt. Strangely, all around, and you can see it immediately in the Menenu, we have round building. It is the oldest temple still following, still rebuilt by the Egyptian. That means probably that the Egyptian arriving in this new country don't know the gods, and they are afraid about the local gods. This is the reason why they are rebuilding this round construction and unknown in Egypt. This is to give you an idea about how complicated it is to understand the remains of Bukigel. All these bricks are drawn by my collaborators, and we try to understand each period one after the other. And this is the reason why we understood that during the Egyptian colonization, the Nubian temple are still reconstructed regularly, and they have fortification all around. To protect the original remain, we are doing each year 200,000 new mud brick, and we are rebuilding partly the remains to show to the public, to the visitors, this extraordinary architecture. As you can see here, we have one temple with buttresses all around because it was vaulted, and another temple and a little palace organized in a little chapel. This shows you the evolution of this architecture to show to our colleague in Europe and all the world the richness of this architecture unknown today is typical of Africa. Interesting also is to see how the Egyptians are organizing the Menenu. And you can see the main way leading to the palace of the king, leading to the sanctuary of the temples. And in one of these sanctuary, we found an extraordinary stone with the name of Amun of Napata, that's mean of the territory of Nubia, and Amun of Karnak, both in the same temple in the middle. Naturally, all around, we have still this temple of Nubia. To give you an idea of the architecture of the temple during the Egyptian period, we had the opportunity to clean carefully the remains of this temple, and we found a very rich remains. For example, in this little sanctuary, you can see here this square room, and in the middle, this round shape altar. it is to see that also the Egyptians are influenced by this architecture of Nubia. In details, you can see, for example, here that all the mud brick and earth building are reinforced by little pieces of reed to reinforce the earth and to have like that a very strong altar. The main door is done by 3 enormous bastions with, for the measurement, in a part of the center, a round columns, but it is not a column. It is only to build the building to help to have an idea of a horizontal situation and vertical situation. The 4th bastion is destroyed by a well of a later period. Inside, the organization of this door is very complex because you have corridors with doors in wood prepared with very strong wood construction and earth construction. That means the soldiers have the possibility to run around the bastions and to defend this kind of fortification. As you can see, it is very impressive, very well done and enormous. This door have been fortified, but they have also inside the possibility to put the main product interesting the Egyptian. That means the gold, ivory, ebony, and incenses. And you can see the technique of construction of this, in this case, small temples, round in shape, connected with local gods. And these temples are still preserved during this Egyptian Menenu period. After the building of the Menenu, the Sudanese and people of the region conquered a new time and destroyed the Menenu of the Egyptian. They built new bastions and they did a new town. And we found in the city of Kerma the remains of a huge grave of one of the last king of Kerma. And this grave is now presented in the village today. The daughter of Thutmose I came again. We have a stela explaining all this war with the Nubian, and Hatshepsut came here and rebuilt completely the town. As you can see, they enforce all the fortification of the 2 doors, and we have still a reconstruction of the temples, of the round temples. Still, Hatshepsut is afraid by the local gods. Interesting is to see how enormous is becoming the gate, the entrance in the city with this fortification, but also with room, with column to the north, down the picture, and in this room, they put the product of the exchange with the South countries. As you can see here, this door is very impressive, and we try to protect it by this part rebuilt construction. And we are doing a study of the architecture because it is connected partly with Egypt and partly with Nubia. You can see here easily how it is easy to understand when we have the indigenous construction, this new architecture still unknown, and the construction done by the Egyptian, in this case by Hatshepsut. It is a ceremonial palace with a very small room with the throne of the king and two different seats and columns of a day. The rebuilding of the Menenu shows that Egyptian came with very good specialists in this case, and you can see the quality is like in Egypt today. This is the king Thutmose IV. Well, the city is rebuilt so many times. And we found, for example, in this case, foundation deposit, very interesting because it is the opportunity to see all in reduced form, the object used for the reconstruction of the town. And we have down here the name of Thutmose IV, who rebuilt the town, and you have his name on this faience plate. We have also the name of the big Akhenaton, who did new construction in Dukigel, and we found this pavement done by block of this period when Akhenaton decided to stop completely the cult of all the gods in Egypt and to have only one Aton god. And by chance, many of these blocks were decorated, and we have the name of Akhenaton here down, cut later by when the religion changed again. During the 25th dynasty, that means 700, 600 before Christ, the king of Kerma and Napata are in power in Egypt. They control all the territory of Egypt and the Sudanese territory. And there is a completely change in Dukigel with a rebuilding of the town with new extraordinary building. For example, this to the upper part, this row of towers protecting the temple and the north of the town. We found this extraordinary remains of a temple absolutely unknown in Sudan and Egypt, connected probably with Taharka. And in this case, Taharka is following a long evolution, archaeological evolution, with at the beginning this little round temple, probably vaulted, and after that, during the New Kingdom, this square temple with an apse to the north, and later to the 25th dynasty with this enormous building with columns. And you can see here the evolution, and at the end, the systematic destruction of the last monument, a new time by an Egyptian expedition.
ايوه حبيبي.
We work 20 kilometers to the south in Tabo. It was 40 years ago, 45 years ago, and I had the opportunity to dig this huge temple of Taharka. And you can see the remains still today in Tabo, where the people want to protect this remain and ask me to come to see the situation. Interesting is to see that we have 3 temples with the same plan. One in Tabo, one in Kawa, 40 kilometers to the south, and one in Sanam near Jebel Bakr. And we can see that a text of Taharka explains that he asked when he was Pharaoh, Black Pharaoh of Egypt, he asked people, architect, specialists, to come and to build Egyptian building to show the importance in Egypt in Sudan, and he asked his people to do this temple, and they are still preserved. But in Dukigel, he rebuilt the oldest temple, original, and he did a chapel to the south, very well decorated, and we have many blocks of this chapel. Interesting is between these 2 temples of Taharka, we have what we call Castle of Gold. In fact, it is the place where we are preparing new statues, and there is a workshop for bronze scaling. And to the north of this part, we found 3 huge wells, and one with the cache of Dukigel, with these extraordinary statues of 593 before Christ. In this case, it is the Napatan king Onamani with the horn of the god Ammon. And as you can see, they are still the crown of Egypt, and they are thinking they are still leading Egypt, but it is no more the case. And it is in the new kingdom of Napata between 700 before Christ till 300. This beautiful statue of Taharka is very well preserved, and you can see immediately that some part of the granite stone is not worked like the other. For example, the crown is picked by the sculptor, and we found all around the statue in the cache traces of tissue. On this tissue are a little level of gyps, and at the surface of the gyps, gold leaves. We found many gold leaves during the dig. This is the presentation of this statue in the actual site museum in Kerma. They are very well organized, and they will stay there. Your government asked me to take this statue away in England or in France recently. I refuse, because I think that these statues are so well preserved that they must stay at the same place. But by chance, the Louvre will do an exhibition next year in 22 on the Napatan kings, and they will do a 3D reconstruction of the statue, and this naturally we agree, and you will have the opportunity to go to Paris and to see the statue of Doukhigel rebuilt in the Louvre Museum. Well, during this period also, there is an evolution of the architecture and very well preserved. And we understood that the round shape is still following during the latest period. And we had the opportunity to study a strange construction in wood. As you can see on this plan, double post holes are used to do the interior of the building in wood. And we study the passage and the ceremonies inside this building, and it is naturally completely strange to see this kind of construction with doors inside and with the passage in front of this door and a kind of ceremony leading to the sanctuary. This gives you an idea about the elevation work. Naturally, you can understand that it is an enormous work, and all the surface ask years and years of cleaning and drawings if we want to understand really the architecture. But you have to think that here down, we have many temples before. That means that during generations, Sudanese archaeologists will have work to follow the study of Doukhigel. At least we have 3.5 and 4 meter remains, and each 20 or 30 centimeter, we have new feature, new construction, new plan of this, in this case, of this plan, of these temples. An idea of some object found in Doukhigel, we have the remains of a workshop of faience object to place them on the wall. Or this is to it is an amulet by people. Very beautiful work done in this workshop. Here you have to the right example of molds, and to the left example of realization. A little lion in bronze, very well preserved, a foundation deposit under the temple of Taharka. During the Meroitic period, that's mean after 300 before Christ till 300 after Christ, we have new buildings, new construction, and all the monuments are rebuilt. One is extraordinary. It is done on round temple at the surface, and it is connected with banquets where people was sit and in front of altar with this little round foundation. And we have the columns of the upper part of the roof. And we have the proof that congregation was organizing cult for a group of people. And we have the same example in Egypt during this period. It is protected by towers around. At the same period, round temple and square building for this group of people. Well, I hope to have the opportunity to see you in the Museum of Kerma. This beautiful museum with the statue is for you. And actually 20,000 people each year are coming from all the Sudan. And I am very happy that you have this opportunity to see the importance of your patrimony and to see how rich was the region of Kerma. Well, I am a very old man today, but it is a beginning. I think that for the next generation, it will be an opportunity to see the past of the Sudan and to see the importance of this past and the quality of this past with the help of women from Kerma. Thank you very much indeed, my good friends. Naturally, I'm ready if you have some questions.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, we, the Sudanese all over the world, are always uplifted truly by your talks and appearances, and certainly your remarkable achievements. You have provided us with such a unique opportunity to live in the fullness of Sudanese history. This is truly a deeply satisfying experience. For more than 50 years, you have been excavating ties that point to the existence of a refined earliest African civilization flourishing together with the Egyptians. Before you, I might not hesitate to say it, there was scarce any hope to prove that on a solid scientific ground, and consequently forge a new sort of reality for an everlasting identity. As usual, and by your high standards, Professor Bonnet, you have been grand and splendid. Thank you very much indeed for the delivery. And truly, it was a jolly good, marvelous, and an enlightening presentation. As I said earlier, you are an unaging monument of intellect. You are an unaging monument of intellect. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, all participants, it's always worth noting that Professor Bonnet helped show that Sudan was not merely a paltry vessel to Egypt's wealth of ancient relics. As a matter of fact, Nubia was a trove itself. To lighten this evening, Charles, you were born to a family of wine producers in 1933. After graduating with a diploma, I believe in agriculture, you took over the family business in 1954. From 1961 to 1965, I think, you studied Égyptologie au Centre des études orientales à l'Université de Genève. You then became an invited professor at College of France. Very remarkable. As a young man, you were a wine grower. Well, you have come a long way from the Swiss vineyards you have harvested as a young man to become an ancient history shaker and changer. Well, one learns how to see the ground and the vegetation and the colors of the ground when it comes to wine. Do you credit your roots as a wine grower with some responsibility for your subsequent career?
Well, thank you very much. You are too nice with me. In fact, I am a man like you. And for me, archaeology is not studying the dead people, it is studying the living people. And I have so many friends in Sudan to give me this opportunity. I must say that after all my experience, I have the chance to encounter Sheikh El-Zubair El-Malik in Imani. It was for me the chance to love your country, because this man was so involved to help the country and the people of the country that it was the main example for me. And I will try to follow my work till my death, because it is my life to have this contact with, friend contact with the people of Sudan, and mainly the people of Kerma and Dukigel. And
yes, please continue, Prof.
well, I think to understand better your history, that Sudan is to the south of a way going from north to south, from our country of the Mediterranean Sea, and Egypt to the south. It is north-south. But there is another richness of the Sudan, this way from the Red Sea to the Atlantic. That means east-west.
Right. Right. And do you think we will have some sort of Sudanology, if I may say, as strong as Egyptology in the near future?
I think he's muted absolutely.
Sudan is in the middle of a crossway from the north to the east and west. And it is an opportunity historically to show the importance of the country. Actually, I try to understand better this central Sudan, still unknown archaeologically. There is very few work done. It will be the duty of your son, of your people, to do the work in central Sudan. And in central Sudan, I'm sure that there are huge complex state to understand, like I am doing in Kerma.
Charles, and by your presence, your very presence, Monsieur Charles Bonnet, you have enlightened us this evening. Truly, you have changed the global understanding of Egypt and Nubia in the ancient world once and for all. Ladies and gentlemen, all participants, you may ask questions if you have.
Hello, Dr. Charles, if I may start with my question.
Yes.
Yeah, I have noticed that in one of the pictures where you showed the status, that all of them are having their foot, the left foot is in front of the right foot. So is there explanation for that? And also I have a request, if we may get your contact regarding the usage of these pictures in artworks or in kind of media. That's it, and thank you.
T'as compris quelque chose?
Pourquoi les parents les parents les statues en déposition?
It is, excuse me, for the leg of the statues, it is a symbolic position, because if you look carefully, you will see that the foot are destroying prisoners down. That means there is an arc, and they are destroying the people, the enemies. It is this position. And you saw that there is also in the end of each statue, around little piece. It is a piece of papyrus with the decision of the nomination of the pharaoh. This is my answer. And your second question, I didn't understood.
It was actually a request to get in contact with you, if we can get your email, for example, or any other way of communication.
Well, actually, we try to prepare our next season work. It will be complicated because, as you know, we didn't have been in Kerma last year. And I want to reorganize completely. And naturally, we have many people asking us to, for the contact, if you want to have a presentation of the remains, I am completely ready. You can come when you want. During the next winter, that's mean from the 25th of November till the beginning of February.
ممكن أسأل سؤال يا محمد? Can I have a question?
Yes, please, please.
Yes, I'm far in the east now. It is 3 a.m., but I have been waiting eagerly to listen to Professor Bonnet, whom I have been in touch with in the year 1997. I visited with some friends that area where he was working, and one of his colleagues told us about the exhibition that they had in London, and he said it happened that the Egyptian ambassador and the Sudanese ambassador were there in the exhibition when they announced that the Sudanese pyramids were the original, not the Egyptian pyramids. And the Egyptian ambassador was not happy to hear that, but the Sudanese ambassador said, look, brother, things start small, then grow bigger. I'm really happy to be with you here today, but my much concern is about the theological viewpoint. Many people now in Sudan claim that Abraham is Sudanese, Adam is Sudanese, Eve is Sudanese, could be Musa Sudanese, Jesus, and this is extremely related with the archaeology. And since you talk about the future, it is our mission. It is an international or global mission to find out that. It will be a great honor for us. Thank you so much, and happy to see you again after 24 years. Thank you, Professor Bonnet.
Thank you. Well, I explain you that there is a very old war between Egypt and Nubia. But I think that scientific work is maybe to go a little further and to help the people today not begin another war against Egypt. I know that many Sudanese are not so happy with Egypt, and they are thinking that there is a complex. When I came 55 years ago, people told me, you are mad to work here, there is nothing. You have to go in Egypt. Everything is there. Here, there is nothing. And when I did the first conference in Cairo at the academy, the president told me, well, I am so happy to hear about our little sister of the Sudan. And I told him, well, pay attention, professor. This little sister is going up and she's very well. And I think that the main thing is to do history, to do a scientific work and to prove what we found. It is what I do that from so many years. I try to prove to my colleague Egyptologists that we are not in a war. Egypt is not better than the other. Sudan is not better. We are to understand the history of man. And it is so extraordinary to have this friendship in Sudan in all the specialists of the history. And I want to follow this way. And I can tell you that one day Sudan will have a history like Egypt. in my country, in my little country in Geneva, I did also archaeology. And well, I'm not thinking that these Geneva remains are better than everywhere in Egypt or in the world. I think that we have to think to men, to try to understand men. And the man in Sudan is so marvelous. I can tell you after so many years that you have to preserve this man and his history. For the pyramid, excuse me, I can tell you that the pyramid of Egypt are older and they are completely different. They are connected with the beginning of Dukigel. Cheops, for example, it is the same period. I show you temples of this period. You have remains of this period, but there is no pyramid. There is round temple. They don't have round temple in Cairo. And in Meroe, the pyramids appear later. And you have Meroitic pyramid, Napatan pyramid, that means from 700 before Christ till 300 after, we have pyramids in Sudan. And the shape of this pyramid are completely different than the shape of the pyramid of Egypt. And they are very interesting and very beautiful.
And here one might say that maybe there's a vast sort of body of literature written about that the civilization started in the south and then moved to the north. And maybe one of the pioneering figure was Sheikh Anta Diop, the Senegalese. But here, I think, with Professor Charles Bonnet, it's a different, because that was sort of speculating, and it was were hypotheses anyway, and forceful sort of arguments. But still, what Professor Bonnet has done is something more of a scientific value and appraisal. If somebody else got some questions, they might proceed, please.
Hello, I just have got a question. I just want to ask Charles. Regarding the obviously you have done a great really work in the ground, and this work is really become so apart from part of the Sudan history, but it's an international thing. I just wanted to know how much of this work is being incorporated now into the academic sort of like teachings in the Sudanese schools, Sudanese faculty of archaeology, and whether it's become like a sort of separate sort of like a Sudanology versus the Egyptology, which has been taught in the past, and the Sudan archaeology and the ancient history was a part of Egyptology. Now I think this enormous work has to be part of a Sudanology, which should be taught in the university, faculty of archaeology, and for all people who are really working academically in the field of archaeology.
Well, it is my job. The problem is to prove this new way of the history of the Sudan before to speak about Sudanology. I think that in all the universities of the world, you have institute, you have specialists of Egypt, but in Sudan, there are very few the specialists, and we must be modest. And we need time to go step by step and to show to the public the richness of your past. For the moment, all must be proved in Sudan. We need other Marseille. other difficult because archaeology is working by comparison. I think that there is a problem.
Somebody, I think should mute their microphone.
Can I ask question?
You can, the controller can mute everybody. Could you do that, please?
Professor Charles, for this marvelous talk. And I want to ask if there is any relationship between these rounded temples in Karma or in Nubian with Inca civilization in this Brazil or this South America, because I came across that there is also unique round shapes. Also, maybe there is any relationship. This is first question. And the other question, looking forward for your book, I think if I'm not wrong, Black Pharaohs or something like that. And for 5 years, I couldn't find. So if you can also tell.
It's a good opportunity to tell people that, the Black Kingdom of the Nile is on Amazon. You can buy it. There are so many. There are highly collectible editions. There are cheaper one, hardcover, and I believe there are also paperbacks. So if you go to Amazon and you put the Black Kingdom of the Nile, I assure you can find it now, and you might buy it online wherever you are in the world.
Hello, good evening.
To answer about the Inca, we must say that the Inca are coming 3,000 years later, and the connection are not done. And the problem is that we don't have connection between South America and Africa. It is much later, the connection are done much later. No, the round structure are connected with Central Africa, surely, and it is a new architecture, and we have to understand this new architecture. It needs time, and maybe it is with result like that, that step by step, we will build in the academic world the interest for Sudanese remains. I am doing books and books each year. Just 2 weeks ago, we finished a book on the 25th dynasty and Napatan and Meroitic period in Dukigel. And this book are actually our main effort to show to the people of the world the importance of the past of the Sudan. And actually, if the Louvre choose to do one of his main exhibition about Nubia, it is also because we did an enormous effort scientifically in this publication.
South America is like a court here, if I may. After university, you drifted to South America, but ended up setting your sights on Egypt. You were interested in Egypt, but more in Africa. When did you realize that it was wrong to seek Sudan in Egypt, and it was necessary to seek Sudan in Sudan?
Hello. Hi, Mr. Mohammed Suleiman. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please go ahead.
Right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. My question is to Professor Charles Bonnet. I have been tracing down since the last 26 years ago the archaeological assumptions that the pyramids were known in Nubia first and then moved northward to Egypt. It was started by what is called in the archaeological cycles as the mastaba. It wasn't known as pyramids first. It was known as something like mastaba, and then it goes northward. I have very much interested interview one day with Dietrich Veldum. That was away in the mid of the 1980s. And I have imposed this question, whether or not the pyramids architecture styles were known in Nubia and move northward or not. Still until now, I have unquenched thirst to know the ethnicity of the pyramid architecture styles, whether it was started in Nubia, different civilizations, or it was started in Egypt. Could you please elaborate on this?
Well, it is a problem of chronology. If you have pyramid at 2,500 years before Christ in Cairo, we have to see pyramids of 2,500 years in Sudan. And we don't have pyramids so old. The oldest pyramid known are of the New Kingdom, came during the New Kingdom, that's mean 1,500. And it is only small pyramid in mud break. But in stone, we have pyramid during the 25th dynasty and a little later, but the main number of pyramids are the Nabatean Meroitic period. It is nothing to do with Egypt. We know the shape of the grave because the pyramids are used for the graves. They are marking graves. And we know that the grave during the oldest period in Sudan, from prehistorical time, done by tumulus. That means with stone round in shape. And it is nothing to do with the pyramid. I think that the idea of the pyramid coming from the south is wrong.
And I believe, ladies and gentlemen,
right.
that you know, this is a sort of, as we said, a vast sort of literary body, not only by Sheikh Antadju, but by others, that the pyramids and civilization started in the south and then moved to the west. These are premises to be proved. The area in which Professor Bonnet is working is more rigorous and scientific. It's archaeology, it's science. So he cannot say something like that. There is this yearning and nostalgia to believe that, but still all these are sort of premises and arguments, but on solid scientific archaeological ground, not yet improved. But what proved is what he done, that there are some sort of civilizations and temples and theology. There are people who already went far to say that even the Greek philosophy itself, the origin of Greek philosophy.
Sorry, Dr. Muhammad. Would you please, just to help in organizing, you talk more than even the speaker himself. Would you just limit your
please go ahead with some questions or any comments?
Yeah. This is by the way a major comment. My question is to Dr. Bonnet about his efforts, how fairly it encouraged other archaeologists to come to Sudan to participate in exploration of its history.
Well, I am doing thousands and thousands lectures like I am doing tonight. And I am 88 years old. That means that I am doing a great effort to promote your history. And if I tell something, it is to help to a new team of work working in Europe, but working mainly in Sudan, because I think that the history of Sudan must be done by Sudanese. Each year, I'm doing lecture in Khartoum, in the University of Khartoum or Delaine and other one. And it's a pleasure for me to show the importance of the patrimony.
Excuse me, Prof. I have one more question, if possible.
Yes.
Right. My question is that I need an explanation from Professor Charles Bonnet to this thing, which is quite notable if you analyze the architectural styles of the pyramids in Nubia and compare it to those ones in Egypt, right? First of all, one would be very much astonished by the number of the pyramids in Sudan, which goes more than 200 plus, 284 or so thereabout. And the other thing is that the architecture style differs a lot, tremendously, from those one in Egypt. We have the steppy pyramid, we have the round bottom shaped pyramid, we have one with monochapel over in chapel, one with duetto over in chapel. How this can be explainable, Prof?
Because in Egypt, the pyramids are built long period.
You can turn the audio on.
From the old kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, but later very few are built, and step by step they disappear of the architecture. It is the contrary in Sudan. At the beginning, there are very few pyramids during the New Kingdom, and there are more and more. And during the Greco-Roman period, that means during the Napatan Meroitic period, there is a lot of pyramids, because it is maybe the policy of Taharka. Taharka was clever enough to show that to follow the war between Sudan and Egypt was the end of all this territory. And for him, he tried to push the Sudanese to be more Egyptian, more influenced by Egypt, and to push the Egyptian to be more interested by Sudanese past. And it is very extraordinary to see how clever was this Taharka man. And for example, you have an Egyptalization of the country for a time during Taharka, and Taharka is a Nubian. He's defending Nubia because he was thinking to clear. And for the pyramid problem, it is the same. I will add something important. During the last period, during my life, civilization, all the remains of the Nile Valley pass through text, through hieroglyphs. Actually, archaeology did an enormous effort, and it is today a scientific way to understand the past. And this is new. And this is maybe why a long time ago, only the text, only the hieroglyphic type was important, and the archaeology was secondary. And you have to understand that we have to prepare for the future of the Sudan. Good Sudanese archaeologists, partly in Europe, partly in America, partly in Africa, and this is the future of the Sudan.
طيب الحضارة أنا بتساعد باللغة العربية. بنفس الاختلاف بين الحضارة في دارفور في دارفور هنالك عديد من جبال جبل أوري. وجدنا في جبل أوري عدد 3 مقابر. يا ريت محمد سليمان ترجمة جبل أوري، وفي شمال دارفور وجدنا مقابر راسية ومقابر سعودية.
They found some sort of graveyards in northern Darfur.
في جبل أوري.
جبل أوري Mountain. Are you familiar with that?
في مدينة كتم.
Near Kutum or west.
Kutum, I think that Kutum is another Kema. And it is
وجدنا عديد من المقابر، وأيضا في أودوغولي الرابط الفرع مع وادي هور.
and Howard Valley.
وادي هور فيه هنالك منحوتات ومقابر دفن، وفي هنالك رسومات ومنحوتات. أنا ممكن أعرض جبل أوري، ده صورة لجبل أوري.
Yes.
He's saying this is a picture.
Oh, you are right. I am sure of that. But you have to add Kordofan because the territory is enormous. And in Kordofan also, we can find traces of the history of Central Sudan. You know, for example, our Italian friends work in Kassala, and they found many things there. But it is to interpret it. It is still to do. I am working from 55 years ago, the Italian only 10 years.
Hello, I have another question. Is that possible, Mr. Mohammed Suleiman?
Yes, please go ahead. Let's do.
Right, thank you very much. Following what you have said, Charles, regarding the Egyptolization processes that Taharka was very much indulged in, to what extent we can consider Taharka as an exemplary model of contrast with Sparta, who in his account was trying to Nubiatize, if you allow me the expression, the theological aspect of life in Nubia by moving from Ammon worshipping to Zebumeka. So could we consider Sparta as an exemplary model of contrast with Taharka in this regard? Is that possible?
Well, the position of Taharka is completely different of the position of Aspelta. Aspelta was a very good military chief of war, but Taharka was on both sides, cultivated of the Egyptian side and on the Nubian side. And when you see the text connected with the life of Taharka, it is very impressive how it is attached to Nubia. For example, he asked his mother to return from Nubia to him in the Delta. He was living in the Delta in war with Babylonian, and he asked his mother to come, and he explains that she did an enormous trip from Sudan to Egypt. And I think that this is a way to show the interest of Taharka. If Taharka is asking good builder to go to Tabo, to Sanam, to Kawa, to do new temples, it is because he wants to help this region, to show the different model of temple and to be more universal. And I think that Taharka was a very great man. Aspelta also, but he's mainly a military man.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, may I ask?
Yeah, please do.
Yes, there is, you know, about the Egyptian dam and the water that goes to cover a lot of facts. Do you think it might be the key for many questions? And as you said, you still doing your research in the Central Sudan, but many people think it might be the key for many of the hidden facts. What is there? What is there under the water? What is we really don't know what have this water covered.
Well, it is difficult. I didn't understand you completely, but
I mean, in the upper Sudan, there is a wide distance that is covered by water, and they say it's they have these artists under the water, like a lot of this Nubian history is covered by water, so it might be the key for.
Well, you think about the dam?
Yes, I guess.
Yes, the dam has covered wild field. Can someone, if someone understand me, because maybe I couldn't know how to put the question correctly.
No, he understood you, I guess. Yeah, he's talking about Sadd al-Ali, Professor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the dam.
أنا بقصد يعني في آثار كثيرة كانت تحت الموية. يعني قالوا عنه إنه في آثار كثيرة تحت الموية وفي مناطق شفناها مغطى يعني we never know what is under there because we cannot dig, right? So if this water drained, you think
covered by the high dam, dam, which is built by Egypt.
Yeah.
Well, I participate to the salvage of the high dam of Aswan, and we found many things, but archaeology needs time. This is the problem. Scientific archaeology needs a lot of time, and if we go too quickly, it will be a disaster. And for example, all the fortresses and all the big buildings under the dam of Aswan are now destroyed. And people did plan very quick documentation, but it is not enough to understand the history and the chronology of the different buildings. This is one of the problems. If you say about Egypt and Sudan, as I didn't understand you very well, I can tell you that in Egypt, from 200 years or 300 years, there are archaeologists, there are historians working from a long time ago, and we have data of these different buildings. And for the salvage of the dam, it was possible to use this data to save partly the patrimony. In Sudan, everything is new, as I told you. The pyramid also are not very well known. And it's need a lot of time, it's need a lot of work to understand each period. I did my little part in Kerma, but it is only a part of the Sudan. Sudan is enormous. And I'm sure that there are many Kerma in other parts of the Sudan, but I cannot do everything. With my colleague, we did a lot, but it is not enough. And I think that during next generation, I told, and young people have to think to that, there is possibilities to find the richness of the patrimony of the Sudan.
More questions?
Well, I have a question, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
My question thank you, Prof. Charles.
Yes.
For this presentation. And my question is regarding what the obstacles that you faced during your time that, in Sudan, I mean, the people that cooperate with you, the government and this kind of stuff. And then what is your advice for us as a new generation or the young people? What the work that we're supposed to do to discover and to find our civilization and to show it to the world, instead of that back and forth with Egypt problem and Egypt stuff. We also have civilization and we need to show it to the world. So what is your advice for us to show this to the world? And thank you very much.
Well, thank you. You know, you are lucky in Sudan because the people of the Sudan is marvelous. Very clever, very interesting, and it is a big change with other countries I know. And I think that you have the opportunity in Sudan to prepare people to work seriously in this case, in what I think Central Sudan. And I hope that you will not have the problem of salvage by dams, because I hope that this dam will not be so many during the next years. We spoke about 12 new dams around Kerma. I think it is too much, and it's a great pity for the past. But to return to the people, to the young people, naturally it is the university who must prepare these people to work on the field. And as I told you, archaeology changed completely during the last generation. And actually there is people explaining all the possibility opened by archaeology. And in Elaine, for example, I was doing lectures. They had many possibilities to prepare serious people to work on the field.
May I ask you questions?
Yes, please go ahead. Please do.
Yeah. Good evening to all of you. Regarding that, we hear in the social media that there is something is coming up that they said that the King Solomon has been the temple in the north of Sudan, but we are not sure that is exactly it is a true or something is a fake. Until now, no one came to us in the media and to that's all to explain what is going on actually, because we have already heard this several times and none of the government or any other those who are related to these things, they do not come up and they show us that this is the real or this is the fake. And we until now we do not have any idea it is true or a fake.
What is exactly the discovery?
They discovered that the temple of King Solomon has been in the north. They have been found in the century 17.
No, it is not serious. King Solomon did have been so many times in Sudan, because we don't have traces of that. Till today, we don't know anything about King Solomon in Sudan, any serious thing. Maybe it was, but it is unknown. You know, archaeology and scientific work is going step by step. It's a long way. It is not the discovery of Zaya was in Egypt. It is something completely different.
Actually, this is what we heard from the social media, and they said already.
The media, you know, lie from time to time.
Hello, Mr. Mohammed.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah.
Good evening, and thank you very much again, Professor Bonnet, Al-Fatih Al-Malik here. Thank you for accepting our invitation and for this wonderful presentation tonight. I heard you before shedding light on the links between Eastern Sudan as well as the western part of Sudan to Kerma. And I think you had some archaeological evidence of that. Can you talk about this a bit?
Well, it is today too quick to answer you, because in the desert, we have very few elements to understand the latest period. For the prehistory, I can say that there is connection, but it is a very small part of the east part of the Sudan and the west part. Everything is to do in Sudan. Everything is to rethink with the new archaeology, with a serious scientific work. And what we found in Kerma is a good example, but it is not enough. We know that For example, in the city of Tukigel, I told you that we work on the surface. That's mean 50 centimeters. But the city is going down till 5 or 4 meters deep. That means each level of the city are unknown. That means also in Dukigel and Kerma, we don't know anything. And also that shows us a new time that you need a good group of new people in Sudan, of new scholars working on the past and doing a good archaeological work.
هلو أستطيع أن أتكلم؟
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Mohammed?
Hello?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it
Hello.
possible
Hello,
to have
everybody.
a question?
There's Anwar, I think, asking.
Is it possible to ask just a quick
Anwar, can
question?
you proceed with your question, please, Anwar?
Yes. Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, my question is to Professor Charles Bonnet. Apart from the conspiracy theory, what are the major constraints for not having yet deciphered the Merwatic alphabet? I mean, there's a lot to be said in respect to maybe finger of suspicions might point at disguising intentionally the disappearance of the Merwatic alphabet. But apart of that conspiracies, what are the major constraints in your point of view that not enable yet the archaeologists to decipher all the Merwatic alphabet?
Well, you know that Claude Rie is actually working on this alphabet, and he have a good idea about the alphabet of the Meroitic period. The problem is to understand the words. Actually, we have maybe a third of the word known for the Meroitic language. That's mean a lot of time. It is the same that archaeology. To do serious work, you need a long time. And there is no serious studies of the Meroitic language before 20 years or 30 years ago. That means we need time and time and time and time. The English, the British did a lot of work on this study, but they didn't agree. They didn't fill the gap. That means that all this kind of work need time, and you are at the beginning on the list for the next generation, because in Sudan, we have very important data and things are going on with very good scholars.
Hello.
Yes,
نعم أنا if
yes, go ahead, please.
نعم if it's possible I would like to speak by Arabic please. المتكلم من إقليم كردستان العراق كلية القانون جامعة السليمانية اسمي أنور أبو بكر الجاب. أقول أحر التحيات نعم وأطيب الأمنيات إلى هذا الجمع الكريم الذين يحيون التراث الإنساني العريق ويقرون بأرومة الشعوب وحضارتهم. ويبدو أن السودان كانت عروسة الحضارة الأفريقية وتوأم الحضارة الإغريقية. وسؤالي للبروفيسور جارلس بونيت، بما أن السودان بهذه الأصالة والعراقة التاريخية، فلماذا لم يذكر الكتب المقدسة من القرآن والتوراة أو الكتب الإبراهيمية اسم السودان بالذكر؟ وكذلك الأمر بالنسبة إلى علماء اليونانيين لم يسموا السودان بالاسم بينما ذكروا مصر وأثيوبيا وغيرهما. شكرا.
Thank you.
I need your help, Mohammed.
Yes. He's saying that if Sudan, as people are claiming or saying, is of so important, why it hasn't been mentioned in Quran and the scriptures, Bibles and Torah, etc. He's an Iraqi guy from Sulemania.
Well, the Quran, the Bible are very important to understand the past, but it is later. I spoke you about 2000 and a half before Christ. All my studies in Kerma are connected before Christ. That means that the Bible and the Quran are not helping me. It's a pity because in the Bible we know very important data connected with archaeology, and in the Quran also. And with all the history of Muhammad, we have many data for Saudi Arabia, for example. But to understand before the Christ, it is completely different. We need other data, and there is no language, no writing during the Kerma period. I am not sure that it is not possible to find in central Sudan to find traces of writings, but till now we have only the Meroitic, and the Meroitic is very late, is 300 before Christ till 300 after Christ.
Excuse me, Mr. Muhammad.
Yes.
Can I just add a note here, please?
Please do.
Right, Mr. Charles.
Yes.
Regarding the question imposed by the previous speaker, in connection to why, if it is that important, Nubia and Kush and Meroitic civilizations, why we haven't any traces of mentioning those civilizations in the old texts of religions. And if I understood you right, you said that there is no mention to this, but according to my knowledge, there is a very strong mentioning of Kush by its name in the Old Testament.
Yes, in Tahaka.
That is in the Torah. Okay, not only this, but also when you find a mentioning of Ethiopia, Abyssinia,
yes.
there is a great difference between Ethiopia of today and the Greek name Ethiopia, which means the people with dark skins, and they were naming then by this attribution all the countries of today, which is started, from northern and eastern African belt. In the heart of this is Sudan of today.
Yes.
But the Ethiopia of today wasn't referred to in the old text of the Bible, Old Testament, as Ethiopia. They were referred to it as Abyssinia, which is in Arabic colloquial is Al-Habasha. All right, this is just, I wanted to add quickly that Kush is mentioned, and it is mentioned in the Torah, in the Old Testament.
I agree, but Kush is mentioned with Tahaka, and Tahaka is mentioned 3 times. We know that, but it is mentioned after the life of Tahaka. It was historian who did that. And for the problem of Ethiopia, it is the same. The texts, very well known, are late. We have only 500 before Christ text of Sabaean, but we don't have any text of the beginning of the history, remember that my title tonight is The Origin of the History of the Sudan. That means it is the beginning when the people are organizing themselves to prepare to build new complex state. And this is much older. And this is to understand the beginning of the history of the Sudan. I think that the historians agree that the history is in Middle East, in Egypt, in Greece, but they don't agree that the history begin with the black people. I challenge that.
But there is a notion here that, I mean, if you follow the history of mankind on the planet of Earth, and you dig much more archaeologically deeper within this historical things, that I have been, for instance, in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, that was away in 2006, right? And they were discovering then the fossil Lucy, which date back 9 million years ago. And I have read in so many archaeological cycles researches that the history of the mankind on the planet of Earth were started with black-skinned people.
But pay attention, don't mix everything. The beginning of man is something, but it is not the beginning of history. The man was living like monkeys and, well, just at the beginning. And there is no organizing state. This is the big difference with history. The history is the beginning of organized state, like the Kingdom of Kerma, like the Egyptian Empire. But if you find, for example, in Kerma, we found also pieces of animals belonging to 1 million years old with artifacts done by men. We know that 1 million years ago, man was in Kerma and Dukigel, but it is not the beginning of the history. It is a part of the evolution of man. And this is very important for this, or general speak, because if we are speaking about Egyptology, it is not for the man of 1 million years ago, but it is the man of 2,500 years till 2000 after Christ. You understood?
Yeah, I did, but you may be referring here to what is known as
You've been asking a lot of questions.
He asked me a question, and I want to reply back if you don't mind. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I was referring to the Homo sapiens and the Australopithecus, Africalopithecus. I totally agree with you that the history, as we know it, started with the period, that the chronological period that you were talking about, and that the evolution of man history goes much more deeper than 2,000 or 4,000 or 5,000. Thank you very much for enlightening me on this.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Good evening. First of all, thank you, Mr. Charles Bonnet, for your presentation. My name is Eve. I'm from the Western Sahel, so from what people call Western Sudan as well, Mali, Senegal, and Mauritania. And we call our architecture Sudanese architecture. And I was wondering, you can see one of our ethnic group, the Soninke, they claim they came from Aswan. So I was wondering if there is a connection, indeed, like a continuity between culture of the Sudan and countries of the Western Sahel?
Well, I am mostly interested in this. Actually, I'm working on all the remains in Africa to have an idea about the beginning of the history. And in Mali and Senegal, I am sure that there is older cultures, but still unknown. It is for that I am so passionate. You know, in Senegal and Mali, you have an idea about Middle Age past, but nothing in architecture during the last part of the last 2 centuries. We are speaking about 2,500 years before Christ. There is a big difference between the date of the culture known in Mali and Senegal. I am mostly interested to understand better the link between Darfur and Atlantic, but still today we don't have this link. And I am working with the highest specialist of Central Africa, and I have connection actually with the Collège de France. And well, Kerma is still a unicorn. And this is not prehistory, and this is not the beginning of the man, but it is the beginning of the history. And this is the point. I think that Sudan is a very important place for this origin of the organization of a cultural history in Central Africa. And this will be the future of the studies in Central Africa. Central Sudan till the Mali. I think that the Mali have very old history too.
Thank you for your answer. Do you actually have literature reference for the connection between, as you said, the Darfur and the Atlantic coast?
Well, there is big scholars working on this problem because, as somebody told, there is some text about the Muslim merchant in Central Africa during the 12th century. And we have an idea about the organization of Central Africa during this period with this Islamization and with many texts. In Ethiopia also we have this text, but it is later. And I try with late examples to understand better this link, but till today I didn't result.
Any more questions, please? Just to close.
Yes, hello, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I ask question, please.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Is about the relationship, if there is a relationship between Nubian and South America. So that some name have meaning in our Nubian language. For example, Argentine, Arig, and as you know, as I know that Prof. Charlie Bonnet, you know our Nubian language maybe best than me. My question is, what's the meaning of, for example, Argentine, Arig tea, which mean Arig, you know, Arig meat, and tea, the cow. For example, also the name of Nimar, Ni, drink, and Mar, the area. For example, if any village you visit any village in Nubian area, the beginning of the village name, for example, Koyim Mar. That means the beginning, as you know. Also something like this. this is my question. If there is a relation between South America and Sudan?
No, I am very sorry, but it is really impossible. Well, there is connection during the two last 1,000 years, but and maybe your example are connected with later period connection, but the connection at the beginning, that's mean during the beginning of the story, there is no connection with South America, and it is completely disconnected. But people like you maybe have been in Buenos Aires, and they can exchange with the language and speak with the people, and maybe some words can stay there, maybe from 2000, from 100 years ago or 500 years ago. This is possible, but from the beginning, with the link of the language itself, it is impossible. Because South America is occupied by a man from 20,000 years ago. Sudan is occupied with 2 million, 3 million years ago.
Last question.
Can I have a question, please?
I have question, please. I have a question.
Okay, please do. Go ahead, please.
Me or her?
Hello, go ahead, please.
Yeah,
hello?
hello. I'll start. My name is Hafiz. I'm speaking from the UK. Actually, I just have two questions. Thank you for the great presentation. My first question, I visit Jabal al-Barkar area, and I heard that there's a tunnel between al-Barkar and Dungula city. It's been built for 1,000 years, and nobody had discovered that one. I heard that from the local people. The second one, in 1980s, Malkuri, when she was the Minister of Tourism in Greek, she put a database for every piece of history to be traced from all over the world and to be called back. As Sudanese, we know we have 1,000 of these all around the world, and some of them go into the auction. How we can record that data and write it in our museum and call back for it? Thank you.
Well, for the tunnel, I heard about also in many places, also in Europe, in my country, in my village, people are telling there is a tunnel going from there to there, but it is not existing. It is always dreaming, and people are dreaming about tunnel. I don't know why, but they are interested to have this enormous tunnel. You know, from Barkal to Dongola, it's a long way, and to do a tunnel like that will let traces, and archaeologists will see these traces surely. For Melina Mercouri options, you know, during his period, everybody was thinking that the beginning of the organization, sophisticated, of a state was in Greece. But today, we know that there is example older in Middle East, for example, in Mesopotamia, south of Turkey also, we have many examples. That means that, well, the idea of 50 or 60 years ago are completely finished today because we have possibility with technical evolution for a more scientific result in our field. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ahmed, I
to
think
close,
that people want to go to sleep.
I have one more question, sorry.
Yes, one more.
Excuse me.
Last question, please.
Okay, okay. My question is, yeah, okay. My question is about Adam, the father of mankind. Adam actually in Sudanese, in Nubian language, it means Adam. Adam in Dongola or Nubian, exactly in I don't know, in Nubian language, exactly in Dongola, it said Adam. And you said that the first man in the world is found in Sudan. Is he Adam?
Well,
do you have any?
I think that this can be connected with the dam, because we know many dams of the Kerma period. That means from the beginning of the organization of Kerma cultures, they are doing dams. Or it is the name of Adam you are thinking. You know, all these examples are maybe recent because people are changing and speaking from thousand and thousand years. That means that this exchange is perfectly going on. Adam can be an example. Well, I have to thank you for your interest, everybody. And you know that I will try to follow my work during the next years, if it is possible, because I'm a very old man today. And I am naturally ready to help everybody who is interested in the past of the Sudan. You are my friends. I am so proud after so many years to be in your country, and I hope to follow my work. Thank you very much for everything, for the gift of the Sudan.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor. And we repeat again that you are a monument of sort of aging intellect. To close, I would salute the Sudan archaeological project that gets, as I said earlier, 135 million Qatari riyals boost. Money will support 29 projects, including the rehabilitation of ancient relics, construction of museums, and study of the Meroitic language. On behalf of Sudan, which is our birthplace, and to which we owe our lives and our identity, I do thank you very much indeed, Professor Charles Bonnet. In some respect, on vous dire que tu es vraiment le fils du Sudan. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, the participants, for enriching this speech and evening with and by and through your questions and comments. Thank you very much, and have a very good evening and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Goodbye.
أنا لم أسمع الإجابة عن آدم للأسف، والله بيقطع عندي. هل ممكن إعادة الإجابة عن آدم لو سمحتوا؟
السلام عليكم.
هل ممكن إعادة الإجابة؟
يا أخت هو رد لكي قال